Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning. Um, in this topic, in today's lecture, will be on the topic of organizational factors, the role of ethical culture and relationships, chapter 8 of the textbook. Okay, so if we can recall from lesson 6, we've shown the framework that looks at what are the factors that influence whether or not or how an organization addresses ethical issues. Okay, and last week we focused on one of the main factors, which is the individual factors, and today we'll be looking at organizational factors as the third factor. Okay. So, by the end of this chapter, you should be able to understand the concept of corporate culture, examine the influence of corporate culture on business ethics, assess organizational structure and its relationship to business ethics, explore how work groups influence ethical decisions, and discuss the relationship between individual and group ethical decision making. So the first major part that we will look today is regarding corporate culture, and we will define what we mean by corporate culture. Uh, Corporate culture and organizational structure, organizational culture can be used interchangeably uh, when organizational culture means shared values, norms, and artifacts that influence employees and determine behavior. So even though each person within an organization has their own morals, has their own values, but organizational culture is a shared value embraced in an organization, whether it is values or norms, and because it is a shared value embraced in an organization, then it will have a major influence on how individuals within an organization will act in a lot of cases. Um, so in corporate culture, is the shared beliefs top managers in a company have about how they should manage themselves and other employees, and how they should conduct their business. All organizations, not just corporations, have some sort of culture, and corporate culture includes history and unwritten rules. So usually corporate culture is something that has been developed or something that is shaped on a long term. Okay, very slowly, long term, and is very embedded within the organization. It is influenced by history, and a lot of the culture is in unwritten rules. Something that is not formalized in terms of writing, but it is embedded in the practices of the organization. And leaders are responsible for the actions of their subordinate. So in corporate culture, leaders are the ones that shape the conduct of their subordinates, and therefore usually the actions of their subordinates will reflect back on the leaders, and such so much so that the leaders will be responsible for the actions of the subordinates. Under Sarbanes-Oxley Act, it requires firms to adopt a set of values that forms a portion of the company's culture. Characteristics of an ethical corporate culture were codified within its compliance section. It includes a requirement that management assess the effectiveness of the organization's internal controls, and commission audits of these controls by an external auditor in conjunction with the audit of its financial statement. And the intent is to expose mismanagement, fraud, theft, and abuse, and also sustain a corporate culture that does not allow these conditions and actions to exist. Okay, so um, basically the Sarbanes-Oxley is requiring that organizations create a culture that will influence the practices of the company to fulfill Sarbanes-Oxley requirements with regards to uh, presentation of financial statements, the eradication of mismanagement, fraud, theft, abuse. Okay. Section 406 requires a code of ethics for top financial officers. An ethical corporate culture is measured in the following ways. Management and board demonstrate commitment to integrity, core values, ethics codes through communications and actions. Okay, so when researchers try to uh, value or try to measure the extent of ethical corporate culture, these are the dimensions that will be important. Okay, the first one is management and board demonstrate commitment to integrity, core values, ethics codes through communications and actions. And then employees are encouraged and required to have hands-on involvement in compliance, especially internal control systems and reporting systems. Ethical leadership starts with the tone at the top. Employees expected to receive communication through resolutions and corrective actions related to ethical issues, and employees can report policy exceptions anonymously to any member of the organizations. So the more organizations have these five um, characteristics, then the more the more it becomes an indication of the level of ethics, corporate culture, ethical corporate culture that the company has.